My boyfriend, who I live with, works as a teacher in a town about 15 minutes away by train. He gets home more or less at the same time every day, give or take an hour or so. I, on the other hand, work from home. In late January of this year, we got in a pretty big fight about something stupid. I can't even remember what it was about now, but it wasn't one of those fights where we didn't speak to each other, text, call, or anything the whole next day. So, this afternoon I was lying in bed getting work done. It was a Tuesday, and I was pretty sure his last class finished at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, meaning he'd surely be home at 2:30. But around 1 p.m., I heard the front door open and shut. I thought, I guess he's home an hour early today. It wasn't normal for him to skip his last class every once in a while, so I didn't really think anything of it. In fact, I was mostly mentally preparing for the awkward post-fight, "Hey, how's it going?" conversation. So I continued to lie in bed and do my work and wait for him to come in and change his clothes. The bedroom door was closed, and I had earplugs sort of half in, as I usually do when I'm working. But I could hear the heavy footsteps of him walking around the apartment, as he always does. If he hadn't been mid-fight, and I wasn't so preoccupied with the awkwardness of it all, I might have noticed it was strange how slow the footsteps were, or how long he spent walking around the living room. But I was caught up in the dramatics of the fight, and didn't think about it. I was just lying there, waiting for him to finally come in. Finally, the bedroom door slowly opened just a few inches. I turned my head towards the door and prepared to give him a sort of awkward, "We've been fighting for 24 hours, huh?" smile. But the door didn't open more than a few inches. I looked and saw that it was a woman's hand with red nail polish on the doorknob. Whoever was there slowly closed the door just as they had opened it. Without entering the room, I jumped out of bed, ripped out my earplugs, and sort of froze there for a few seconds while thinking rapidly. My first thought, that was not my boyfriend. Then I thought, could that have been his mom? His sister? The landlady? For some reason, I concluded that surely it was his mom or sister. So I opened the bedroom door and walked into the living room. There wasn't anyone there, but the room smelled heavily of woman's perfume. Then I came to my senses and realized his mom and sister don't have keys and have never come over before. The landlady has never entered without permission. This was a stranger. I ran back into the bedroom and shut the door, now shaking heavily. There is a balcony connected to the bedroom, and despite the cold January rain, I stood on the balcony and called my boyfriend. He picked up and asked him if his mom or sister might have come over unannounced. He told me, "No, don't move, I'm calling the police." The police were there in minutes and searched the whole apartment. Of course, nobody was there by this point. It was weird though. Nothing was missing from the apartment despite us keeping a jar full of money right in the entrance. Nothing was even touched. In fact, it seemed like the intruder came straight to the bedroom, saw my legs on the bed, panicked and left. Plus, you can't open that big wooden front door without a key. For a few days, my boyfriend and I were convinced it just was the landlady being nosy. I began to feel better. Nevertheless, we demanded that the landlady change our locks. When she came to change them with her husband, she made a discovery. There was a square area by the keyhole that had been scratched away with something. The landlady said surely someone used tools to break into the apartment. Then, a day or two later, my boyfriend told me, I have to tell you something, but don't freak out. He told me that the orange kitchen scissors were missing. I obviously freaked out. I tore the apartment apart looking for those scissors. It's been 6 months and those scissors are gone. So the whole thing is just creepy and weird. A stranger breaks into a nice apartment but doesn't touch or take anything valuable. Not even the money jar sitting right in the entrance. Takes scissors from the kitchen, goes straight to the bedroom, sees someone in bed, and immediately leaves? I never got to meet the person who opened the door that day. I hope I never do. I've never posted this subreddit before, but after working with authorities, I feel safe enough to share my story. For context, I am a female 20 years old, started an OnlyFans account over the summer to support myself through school, and things were great until I posted my Amazon wish list. Amazon doesn't release your address to people who gift you items, but third-party sellers can, and that's where I went wrong. By the way, I'm not trying to promote it here. This is a very frightening story, and I felt like it should be shared. In late July, I got a puppy. One night around 2 a.m., I took him outside to go to the bathroom. While he was doing his business, I noticed a car parked outside my family home. I saw a figure in the car and could tell they were looking at me, but I couldn't make out their face because it was pitch black outside. Feeling a bit uneasy, I picked up my puppy to take him back inside, and when it started to move, the car parked in my driveway. I sprinted back inside and locked the door, but they never approached my house. The next morning I went to check the mail. There was an envelope addressed to my OnlyFans name with $20 in it, but no note. I was currently still at home with my parents, who had no idea about my OnlyFans account, so I didn't mention it to them. A week later, I moved back to my college town to get ready to start school. At this time, I had stopped posting for the time being until I could figure out how they got my address. I've watched enough crime shows to know there is a possibility I could be in danger. I live in a duplex with a gated parking lot for reference. One morning, I was planning on vlogging my trip to Target, because I was planning on starting a YouTube channel in the near future, since OnlyFans felt unsafe. When I got to my car, it had been ransacked and my vlogging camera was missing. I know it's my fault for leaving it in the car, but I was using it the night before, and since I live in a gated area, I don't think I would be unsafe. It wasn't in plain sight either. I had hidden it in my glove box. I used that camera to film my content, and the SD card that was in there had all my unreleased photos and videos. I know they stole it just for the SD card. Anyways, this is where the story gets weird. There are cameras outside in the parking lot, so we were able to watch this person break into my car and find the camera. And they didn't touch any of the 7 other cars in the lot. They knew which car was mine, which suggests they have been watching me for a bit. After they got the camera, they walked around the duplex until stopping near my window. My bedroom faces an outside street, and my blinds are broken so it's very easy to see in. I have a curtain, but it doesn't cover my window all the way. This person watched me sleep for an hour or so. I have no idea why they didn't try to break in, but thank God they didn't. This person then sold the camera to a pawn shop, and since I knew the serial number, the police were able to find it. However, my SD card was missing. I believe the police are still trying to track them down, but I have broken my lease and moved to a new place, so hopefully that this will keep me safe. This happened to me during my junior year of college. For context, I'm a 22-year-old female. I was driving from my hometown in the Chicago suburbs to University of Missouri, which is about a 6-hour drive. I made the drive about every 4 to 6 weeks to see my family and my long-distance boyfriend. There are 2 main ways to take to the town my university is in. Stay on the interstate system through central Illinois and St. Louis, or branch out to back roads after Springfield, Illinois, until picking the interstate back up about 30 minutes from my college. I usually took the back roads, simply because it kept me awake with the constant speed limit changes and occasional towns, but this particular time, I took the interstate system because there was a high potential for winter weather. I was minding my own business, listening to one true crime podcast episode after another, when about an hour from my exit, traffic came to a standstill. Great, I thought. It was already way beyond dark at that point. It was also a Sunday night, and I just wanted to get home and catch a decent night's sleep before my Monday classes. After a while, emergency vehicles flew past the traffic on the shoulder, indicating that there must have been an accident up ahead. After what felt like forever, traffic slowly started crawling again, and eventually started moving a little as we all passed the accident. This is when it started. I will admit, I like to drive fast on the interstate, especially on this particular drive. What college kid doesn't? I was in the right lane with a decent amount of space between me and the car in front of me. That is when I noticed someone right on my bumper. Seriously? I muttered aloud. Traffic was no longer super heavy, and the person could easily pass me in the left lane. Suddenly, the car began flashing their bright lights at me and honking. I was extremely confused. I turned off my podcast and kept a close eye on the rear view. The person continued to flash their bright lights at me, half blinding me in the darkness through my mirrors. Asshole, I said, flooring it into the left lane. I maneuvered in and out of view of the cars, attempting to get away from whatever issue this person had, except they followed me every move. Being a 21-year-old female, I began to get sick feeling in my stomach. I had listened to enough true crime and general horror stories to be just the right amount of paranoid. I had read on social media recently about girls from my school encountering sex traffickers in my town and along the interstate that runs through it. One of the town's papers had even read a series of stories regarding multiple sex and human trafficking rings that use this interstate to traffic victims because it basically runs the length of the entire country. I shook the disturbing thought out of my head and continued doing about 85 miles per hour in the right lane, unless I had to go around someone. The car continued to follow me, flashing its lights and barely letting themselves ever get more than a few cars behind and beside me. I finally took the exit to my university. I looked back and the car had followed. It seemed as though the person was trying to get me to pull over. Is there something wrong with my car that I can't see? I wondered silently. Even if there was no way in hell I was pulling over on the side of the interstate in the middle of the dark, rainy night. That is exactly how urban legends or teenage slasher movies start. At this point, I had no idea what to do. Looking back, I really should have driven straight to the local police station. But I was too flustered and scared to think straight. I tried to think back on the last hour or so of my drive. Did I cut anyone off? I didn't think so. I didn't think I had done anything that make any drivers around me think this pissed. I'm a relatively good driver and tend to mind my own business on the road, not engaging in road rage or anything stupid like that. I stupidly began driving to my apartment. The car continued to follow, still flashing their lights every so often, but no longer honking. They continued to stay glued to my bumper. I began to panic. What if they followed me all the way home? What the hell should I do? Call the police and send them on a wild goose chase to look for me? And this car as I'm driving around town? As I approached another small exit off a local highway onto a smaller street that ran past campus and toward my apartment, I had an idea. As I got closer to the exit, I did not get into the far right lane to turn off. At the very last second, I jerked the wheel and careened across the gravel shoulder, so close to the grass that I barely missed driving off the road. As I gunned it down the exit ramp, I glanced up at the overpass. The car had screeched to a halt and was honking its horn manically. I cried the rest of the way home, calling my boyfriend and explaining what had just happened. I never got a good enough look at the car to get a license plate number, or really even a good description of the vehicle, so I never reported the incident to the police. To this day, I have no idea what exactly it was that happened that night. My best guess is that whoever this person was, they saw me when we were all stopped on the interstate, waiting for the emergency vehicles to clear the scene. It's very clear from the stickers I have on my car, one of the university's name, and one that said, Dog Mom, that I was likely a college-age female. All this person had to do was end up next to me, see that I was a female driving alone on the interstate, in the middle of the night, and have just the wrong intentions.